All right, welcome everybody to the April 2021. We're almost emerging version of the Monterey Tech Meetup. Glad to have you all here. See you all tonight. We've got a great program tonight. I'm really excited about this program. So let us roll forward here. That's our next slide. So in case you hadn't noticed, we're on Zoom. If you have questions, put them in chat and Lynette will make sure that I notice that they're there. It's a good way to communicate. You can communicate privately in chat. You're all Zoom experts at this point anyway, I expect. For optimal viewing, we suggest you stay in speaker view mode. Keep your microphone muted, please, unless you are actively speaking. And just a note that we are recording this session and we do post it on the Startup Monterey Bay website, which is a good thing. If you don't want to be seen, just keep your camera off and your mic muted and no one will know you're here, sort of. All right, let's go next. Special thanks to our sponsors, Cal State Monterey Bay, and of course, Startup Monterey Bay, that's us, and our marketing partner, the Monterey Bay Economic Partnership. They've been a great new partner for us, and we'll be hearing from them about some of their really cool programs later this evening. On to next. Welcome, we're here to network, so get to know one another. We'll give you a chance to introduce yourselves in a moment. To be here and share and learn and build a community of entrepreneurship, because it takes a village to get a company started. So we want to all work together, have fun, make money, and change the world. On to next. This is our Tech Meetup team. I am Brad Barbeau. I'm the director of the Institute for Innovation and Economic Development. That's our Entrepreneurship Institute at Cal State Monterey Bay. We also have Mary Jo Zenk, who you will hear from in a little bit. Say hello, Mary Jo.
Hi, everyone.
And Dan Ripke. Dan is not with us tonight. He's out gallivanting around the country. He'll be back next time. Dr. Jenny Kwan is also not here tonight. Satem Etar did all the work to put this together, and then she had to go to class. So she's in class. She'll watch the recording. Lynette Lathrop, she's our driver for the night. Say hello, Lynette.
Hi, everyone.
And Nina Cornelius, another student intern with us, as is Sitem. Nina was the organizer. She is graduating, so moving on to bigger and ever better things. And Naz Hayat, who is, I don't think he's with us tonight. That's our team. Let's roll. Tonight we have a whole host of presenters, and I'm going to read these not in the order of that they're on the slide, but in the order that I think makes the most sense, which is we're going to hear from the California Energy Commission about some great programs that they have in place to encourage energy innovation in the state. And an example of some things that have been funded by them, we'll hear from Bluetech Valley, which is an accelerator in Northern California, covers a good chunk of Northern California. We will also hear from the Monterey Bay Economic Partnership, the regional group, with many innovative programs to help support clean tech happening in our region. And then we'll hear from an example of it with Concentric Power and the innovative city that's making it possible, the City of Gonzales. So we've got a really interesting cross-section tonight. So let's roll forward. There we go. We just finished the qualifying round for this year's Startup Challenge, and we now have finalists for each of the 4 divisions. The Venture Division, and note that last month we heard from Exactly, and Exactly is now a finalist in the challenge. There is no connection, but the fact that they presented did not help them. other than it was practice presenting. That might have helped them. The venture division, Main Street division for smaller businesses, the social venture division for businesses focused on their social mission, and the student division for businesses that are being started by, you guessed it, students. So we're excited. They will be now preparing for the finale, which is May 7th. I'll say more about that in a little bit. There's tonight's speakers, Anthony Eng from California Energy Commission, Helle Peterson from Bluetech Valley, Ashley Gauer from the Monterey Bay Economic Partnership, Jason Sedano from Concentric Power, and Rene Mendez, the fabulous city manager for the City of Gonzales. And so be great to have everybody get to know each other a little bit. So if you would put a little introduction about yourself into chat. Oh, and thank you for popping the poll up. We've got our little poll here while you're putting your information about you in chat, and feel free to make any announcements that you have in chat. And we always check in on where are people zooming in from. And we seem to have Monterey County represented, Santa Cruz County represented, and somewhere else is represented. Somewhere over the rainbow. Anybody want to speak up as maybe the furthest away person? Traveling in thousands of miles. I don't see my Spanish student tonight in from Spain. So we've got people putting some introductions in here. Maria Machado Sanchez from Hartnell, and introduction from Rene. John Tanasi put his link to his life bio in there. Excellent. Encourage everybody to introduce yourselves. Be a real person. Gosh, I'm looking forward to being in hybrid. We're going to move from virtual to hybrid because clearly we're not going back to 100% face-to-face without having the virtual component. I am looking forward to that.
Can
All right.
you hear me?
I
you hear
can.
me good?
Gal, can I hear
Okay,
you?
thank
Yep.
you. Yeah, okay. So would you like me to introduce myself?
So what I'd love to have you do, Gal, we don't have enough time to have everybody introduce themselves verbally, but you could put your introduction into chat. Can you find chat down there? There's a little chat that should be at the bottom of your screen. Click on that and you can type away. Just like Josh Metz, the man with a couple hats.
Okay.
More than a couple these days.
Well, I'm from Florida.
All the way from Florida. All right.
Yes.
Whereabouts in
Warm
Florida?
out here. It's warm.
Yeah, probably a lot warmer than here. But very cold spring.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, welcome from Florida. Glad you could join us. And now let's move to MJ's monthly news quiz. So Mary Jo, what have you got to stump us with this month?
Okay, so for those who are new, just to let you know, I try to find some interesting news about startup and innovation in this region, and try to stump you guys. Most of the information can be found either local newspapers or some of the organizations that are supporting startups like our startupmontereybay.com. So let's go to the first question. All right. Which local college or university was recently awarded a grant from EDA? University of California, Santa Cruz, Hartnell, or CSUMB? Wait a few.
Yeah, they are answering. We're racking up the answers here.
Okay.
We're at 15. Can we get higher?
You don't lose anything by guessing. All right, so I think we will end the poll. And the favorite is CSUMB. So let's see what the answer is. It is CSUMB. That's us. So we're very excited to get this new EDA grant. That's the Economic Development Administration grant, and that's going to help us help small businesses and local businesses that are having some trouble with the after the COVID, either restart or relaunch. And Brad, you want to say anything else about this great grant?
So this is a grant that's going to help us work with companies trying to recover from COVID. We'll be working with companies throughout the region, and we're excited. We've waited a long time. We were actually originally told we would get this grant. We applied for it way last June. We were told it was coming in September, and we have been waiting since then. And they finally announced it a couple of days ago. So this will allow us to ramp up the programs that we've got to help companies with technical assistance and the Get Virtual program for existing companies that are trying to recover from COVID. So it's timely and it's great.
Yeah, we're very excited about that. Okay, so our second question is, which regional community will be nearest to where Apple Inc. plans to build its battery-based solar project? Pinos in San Benito County, I mispronounced that, San Ardo in Monterey County, or Parkfield in Monterey County? Looks like we were getting a tie here.
So I have to admit, Mary Jo, I had never heard of this community prior to your quiz tonight. I didn't even know they existed. Shows how much I know about parts of Monterey County. But now they're on the map.
Okay, so let's end the polling. And so the community in San Benito County seems to have the majority. So let's see who won. It's actually Parkfield, which is in South Monterey County. There is a big solar field down there, and they're going to have it build it right next to it.
I love that water tower. It says earthquake capital of the world. Be here when it happens. I assume they serve lots of alcoholic drinks in that cafe.
But that's pretty exciting for Monterey County. Okay, next question. Which local startup, and this is a company that presented at a tech meetup, is part of a partnership that was awarded a USDA grant, which will help small farmers increase their food yields? Scoot Science, Heavy Connect, or Bloom Distillation?
Is the poll up?
Yep.
It disappeared on my screen. Annette won't let me see it.
Does she think you're cheating?
This was posted in the Santa Cruz Works a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
All right, let's end the polling now. Okay, it looks like Heavy Connect, but the answer is Bloom Energy or Bloom Distillation, and they're working with Whiskey Hill Farms and the Sustainable Systems Research Foundation on this great project to help local small farmers. Okay, and then we have a fun little story that I found in MC Weekly, and about a local entrepreneur that took their pandemic hobby, and it's become quite a business making Michelada bombs and tea bombs. So something you put in your beer, and it's very flavorful. So what city do you think this local entrepreneur is from? Watsonville, Salinas, or Gonzales? All right, let's end the polling. And it looks like the favorite is Salinas. And the answer is Salinas. And the entrepreneur is Sabrina Marie Iniquez, and she makes these candy shells that release flavors and fillings when you pour beer, seltzer, or hot water over them. Sound interesting? I'm not sure I like candy in my beer, but maybe seltzer. Well, that's it for today, this month.
Thank you very much, Mary Jo. So be in the know so you can be prepared for Mary Jo's monthly quiz. Read SantaCruzTechBeat.com for startup news in the Monterey Bay region. Our website, startupmontereybay.com. We have a news feed for news on companies in the region, and SantaCruzWorks.org also has news in the region. Follow us on social media. We put it out as soon as we find it out. Okay. All right, couple of announcements. Startup Launchpad. If you've got a startup and you're looking for help with it, reach out to us. We'd love to help. We have an advising program for if you've got a question or an issue you're dealing with and you'd like some help. Our mentors can help with that. If you want to come into our ongoing mentor program, we have that. You can apply to that program. And we also have the Specialty Foods Industry Founders Roundtable. So interested in any of those, reach out to us at info@startupmontereybay.com. Next up. And Get Virtual, I just referenced it a moment ago. So Get Virtual is a really cool organization started in Santa Cruz by Toby Corey and Nada Milkovic, who got some students together who actually do all the work. And Get Virtual is a student-run organization that works with existing businesses to help them get online, to build their websites, fix their websites, get their social media going, get connected to online payments and online delivery services, etc. This is a free service to the companies involved. It is offered throughout the region. CSU Monterey Bay is the largest chapter in the growing network of getvirtual.org. It's now in about, I think, 6 or 8 different universities across the country. If you know a business that could benefit from this, they can go to the website getvirtual.org. They can also go to startupmontereybay.com/get-virtual. Okay. Upcoming events. The big one, the Startup Challenge. Whoops. The Startup Challenge finale, May 7th from 2 to 6 p.m. We're doing a quick update on our slides. I can't quite do the Rolling Stones, so I'll have to do what's available. And the winner is I'm sorry, the program has been interrupted momentarily by technical difficulties. If you believe you have received this program in error, Oh, here it comes. There it is. Startup Challenge finale, May 7th. This is going to be still an online event in May, but it's a full event. We'll have the venture showcase will be online. Each of the finalist companies will have those companies I showed you a few slides back. Every one of them is going to have a dedicated page on the Startup Challenge website. And we will have the Otter Tank competition to determine the winner in each of the divisions in the afternoon. The final round pitches are in the morning on May 7th. Keep an eye out on startupchallengemb.com, which is the Startup Challenge website. Cheer them on, the 2021 finalists for the Startup Challenge. Okay, next it. Okay, it's getting to be time for presentation. So we just want to remind you, if you suddenly have a question pop into your head, please add it into chat. We'll pose it to our presenters. We should have plenty of time for questions tonight. So on to what's next. And now for our presenters, introduce them. So let's roll to our first presenter, Mr. Anthony Ng of the California Energy Commission. Welcome, Anthony. What you got for us?
Great. Thank you so much, Brad. Is my audio coming through okay?
Yep, just great.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much, Brad, and to the rest of the CSU Monterey team for the invitation and the opportunity to share some information today. So hi, everybody. My name is Anthony Ng. I'm with the California Energy Commission's Research and Development Division, and I lead the Tech to Market unit effort within the R&D division there. So for those who maybe haven't heard of us, the CEC is the state of California's primary agency responsible for energy planning and policy. And so next slide, please. And then so a little bit more specifically, I work in the Research and Development Division. And so our fundamental mission is to support technology and policies and get them closer to commercialization so that we can meet California's ambitious, climate and energy goals. I think at a high level, we have a goal of trying to reach 100% clean energy grid by 2045, and I think like 3.5 million zero electric vehicles by 2030, if I want to say. So really ambitious energy goals, to try to address climate change. And so R&D division is focused on getting new technologies out there to help meet those goals. And so within the R&D division, our biggest program that we administer is called the Electric Program Investment Charge. You can see there, EPIC. It's about $130 million of annual grant funding that we provide. Our natural gas research program's a smaller program there. You can see $24 million. Our food production investment program, this one is a little different in that the funding for this one, and I saw Brad just had a question about this. This one is a little different in that it's not so strictly research based as EPIC and the natural gas program. This one, the funding comes from the cap and trade program that the Air Resources Board runs. And so this program is really about funding food processors to essentially change out old inefficient technologies for newer, more efficient technologies with a goal of net reduction in emissions. And so not necessarily doing research, so to say, but then essentially encouraging and having some incentives for food producers to switch out old equipment for newer emerging technologies. And then our low carbon fuels program. This was a one-time funding, so a pretty limited program that we administer. So next slide, please. So diving a little bit deeper, where my main focus is, I mentioned I lead the Tech to Market unit within R&D, and so what that means is that I work mostly with our programs that focus on supporting entrepreneurs, entrepreneurship, and getting startup companies the resources and support needed to bring new innovative technologies to market. And so this kind of quick graphic summarizes the 5 programs that I'll be sharing a little bit about and kind of where they fit in with the kind of technology maturity scale. We try to build a system of programs that can support companies at different stages of both technology maturity as well as commercial maturity. So next slide, please. So the first program I wanted to share a little bit about is our CalSeed program. This is our earliest stage program. This is our small grant program that's operated within the larger EPIC program focused on, again, electricity technology research. This program offers grants in the $150,000 to $450,000 range. Targeting technologies in the technology readiness level 2 to 4. So early stage concepts. The program structure is that there's an annual solicitation that's open. I think currently the schedule is looking at the Q2 to Q3. So this opportunity is actually forthcoming for 2021. There's an annual solicitation every year. Companies are selected for the initial award, $150,000. We call them the concept awards. And then if you get selected along with the direct funding, the CalSeed program also provides companies with a business development curriculum run by CleanTech Open, and access to a network of investors and potential customers that you get to participate in events like this, where you can kind of share information about your programs, pitch, and attract customers. And then after you kind of go through the curriculum in CalSeed, you are eligible to compete for a $450,000 follow-on award, which is only eligible for people who have companies who have received that initial $150,000 award. So this is kind of our earliest stage program. Our next program, Cal Testbed, is kind of moving down the maturity scale a little bit. This program is designed for companies that have a working prototype and are really looking for some type of third-party or independent testing validation to provide some feedback on how their technology is performing. So the way this program works is it's a voucher program, and you apply, and if you are selected, you have then access to choose from a testing facility at one of the UC campuses. We have 9 UC campuses on board, as well as Lawrence Berkeley National Lab, and between those 10 institutions, there's 60 testing facilities that cover the entire range of clean energy technology. So efficiency technology, storage, generation, microgrids, vehicle grid integration, you name it. There's a testing facility for all types of technologies. And again, if you receive one of these vouchers, you get to take your technology to one of these facilities, get that third-party independent testing that can either then kind of inform your continued technology development, or you could use that independent validation to show to customers, show to investors, again, having a little bit more weight that it was independently conducted. Next slide, please. So again, moving down a little bit more, these next 2 programs are annual solicitations that the Energy Commission operates. The first one is our Bridge program, and this one is designed to provide kind of follow-on funding for companies who have already received an initial round of funding from either the federal government or the CEC itself, and are ready to kind of move on and maybe compete for some additional funding. The way most of CEC solicitations work is that it is typically very technology focused. There might be an energy efficiency solicitation once a year. There might be a renewable generation solicitation focused once a year. And so depending on kind of where you are in the cycle, if you miss one of these opportunities, you might have to wait a whole year, for example, to get another funding opportunity from the CEC. The way Bridge works is that it's kind of meant to fill this gap where we do it every year, and it's pretty much open to all clean energy technology categories, with the only real requirement is that you had to have received a previous CEC or federal award, as well as some previous private investment. And again, this is kind of just an additional vehicle that the CEC can help support continued development of promising clean energy technologies. And then our RAMP program, this is our program focused on latest stage technologies. This one is focused on companies that have a technology. It's gone through demonstration. There's some initial customer demand. There's some customer interest, but they're having trouble scaling up production of of their technology. And so what this program, again, an annual solicitation that we've run, is really focused on helping companies transition from typically hand building one-off prototypes into something that's a little bit more automated, a little bit more streamlined, a little bit more scaled up. And so, we use the term low rate initial production is kind of the goal of helping companies get to by the objective of this program. Next slide, please. And then kind of encompassing all those efforts are regional energy innovation clusters. So Helle Peterson from Bluetech Valley is going to speak after me. So you're going to find out a lot more about that specific program. But the idea here is that we've partnered with 4 organizations across the state of California to establish essentially incubators and accelerators to help provide the access to laboratory facilities, business development, mentorship, connections to investors, connections to customers, all these other resources that a company might need to really bring their innovation from an idea to commercialization. So these companies or these programs accept companies at really all scales of technologies, and if you're accepted into one of the programs, they'll work with you to develop a program that kind of meets your needs and helps you get what you need to bring your technology to the next stage, whether that's technology development, engineering, or looking for customers, customer acquisition, customer discovery, for example. And so we set up these programs to kind of cover different areas. So Bluetech Valley covers the Central Valley, North State, and the Central Coast. Activate runs the Cyctron Road program out of Berkeley. Southern California Energy Innovation Network operates the San Diego and kind of the Imperial Valley areas, and then the Los Angeles Clean Tech Incubator runs the program for the Los Angeles region. Next slide, please. And then my last slide, I just wanted to share a resource for those who may not be familiar with. We launched this website about 18 months ago, empowerinnovation.net. The goal here is that we wanted to really facilitate partnerships, especially around funding opportunities. We were finding that, especially when we here at the CEC were issuing funding opportunities, we were getting kind of a lot of the same applicants over and over again, and we really wanted to expand that pool of people who were competitive for solicitations, especially amongst kind of the startup community, right? And so the way Empower Innovation works is that you could go on, you could create a profile. It's open to anybody who wants to sign up. And on the site, you'll find funding opportunities, both from the CEC, from the state, but also other state agencies and also other federal opportunities. And there's a great kind of find a partner feature there where if you find a funding opportunity that you're interested in, you create a profile, you click, hey, I'm so-and-so, and I'm interested in applying for this solicitation. And then there's a function within the site that will show you everybody else who've also said, hey, I'm also looking for a partner. I'm looking to be a prime. I'm looking to be a subcontractor. I have engineering experience. I can provide a technology. It's just, again, a platform to help kind of facilitate partnerships around funding opportunities. And then in addition, there's also a growing list of kind of resources and tools that we've collected from all our ecosystem partners over the years. So a lot of templates, a lot of reading materials, a lot of videos from the various programs and the curriculum that they've developed over the years. So if you haven't heard of it before, I'd encourage everybody to check out empowerinnovation.net to again, both find out about resources and potentially find partners and teams to apply for funding. And next slide. And so, yeah, so that concludes my presentation. I think I saw a couple of questions kind of drop here into the chat. So let's see. Gal was here. Are you looking for new technology using AC/DC transformers to turn DC current around new technology to separate CO2 to clean O2? So I think to that last point, at least, yeah. So we have been seeing new technologies around kind of carbon capture, sequestration, or carbon utilization, I guess is a more accurate term. It is something that we're interested in. It's a technology area we're interested in, especially for industrial applications. The industrial sector is really difficult to electrify, a lot of high heat applications, a lot of high energy demand. And so, with the overall policy goal of trying to electrify buildings and transportation, understanding that in industrial practices is really hard to electrify, having other technologies that can either capture or reutilize carbon dioxide is another strategy or another area of technology that we've been investigating. Yep.
I gotta interfere over there. There's nothing. AC has nothing to do with DC current. They work on different wavelengths. So I have this working in my house for the last 12 years and no problems with the electricity. So they don't interfere with each other. So that's how you solve the problem.
All right, thanks for that.
Understood what the problem is. Maybe you can write it in chat and it'll be easier for us to understand. You're not coming through very clearly on Zoom.
Not okay. I was question again. Oh, DC.
Yeah. So in the meantime, Anthony, there's a question here. Why is CEC focused on EVs when biofuels get a much bigger bang for the buck?
Yeah, so kind of at a policy level, I think both the legislature and the governor and a lot of agencies are really focused on electrification to reduce emissions as much as possible. I think that's the thinking there, at least. So trying to move away from combustion as much as possible. I think there's still I think especially if you look at certain applications, looking at the medium or heavy duty markets, recognizing that there are some sectors that are getting more difficult to electrify than others. I think these are some examples of other opportunities where other solutions, such as biofuels, might also come into play for, it's still a net kind of emission reduction over diesel, right? So I think the overall goal is try to electrify as much as possible and get the grid as clean as possible as a net kind of emissions reduction strategy. But to the extent that where electrification isn't necessarily feasible or realistic kind of in the near term, there are these other strategies that are also being pursued.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Anthony. We really appreciate it. Great information, great stuff happening at the state level to support innovation. And if people want to follow the programs that are coming out of CEC, where would they go?
So our main website, energy.ca.gov, is a great place to go. But honestly, empowerinnovation.net, I encourage everybody to check it out there because you can find out any information, especially if you're interested in funding opportunities. The team setting up that website has done a really good job of it's a kind of one-stop shop for looking for grant opportunities.
Cool. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
All right.
so the answer to the question was on the screen right now.
The question on
Yeah.
the screen right now is why is CEC focused on electric vehicles?
No. One underneath that, DC works on a different wavelength sound.
Oh, there it goes. It
Then
just
they-
showed up. Does DC
Okay.
work on a different sound wave than AC? So direct current versus AC. I think that question was settled about 100 years ago.
Yes, I know that, but that's the answer. It's only lamp energy. It
Yeah.
doesn't need any other the transformer. So
Got it.
that's the way it works.
Okay. All right. So our next presenter is Helle Peterson of the Bluetech Valley Innovation Cluster. And the Bluetech Valley Innovation Cluster was referenced in Anthony's presentation. And so Halle's going to tell us about that and how it covers our area here. Helle, you are up.
Good, perfect. I hope everybody can hear me. So good evening, everybody, and thank you for spending part of your evening with us all tonight. As Brett mentioned, I'm Helle Peterson, and I manage the Water, Energy, and Technology Center at Fresno State University, and with that also the Bluetech Valley Innovation Cluster. Tonight I'll cover briefly about what we do at the Bluetech Valley Innovation Cluster, a little bit about the WET Center who houses it, but mostly actually about our Valley Ventures Accelerator, which is part of the Bluetech Valley Innovation Cluster. So next slide, please. So the Bluetech Valley Innovation Cluster is headquartered, so to speak, at the Water, Energy, and Technology Center, the WET Center, which is located on Fresno State campus in the Central Valley of California. If anyone have been there, I'm sure you have been driving through 199 through Fresno many times. The center was established in 2007 and has since focused on really providing support and resources to water, energy, and agricultural innovators, entrepreneurs, and startups from really their idea phase all the way through commercialization and traction in the marketplace. So a wide range of different stages of entrepreneurs. We are part of the Jordan College of Ag, and we also have other resources that is housed at the WET Center. There's office space, plug and play space, testing facility, and just a rich environment for entrepreneurs to get started. Next slide, please. So as Anthony mentioned, the Bluetech Valley is one of 4 innovation clusters in California. The Bluetech Valley is by far in geography the largest, as you can see with the blue one on the slide here. We cover the area all the way from Oregon to Kern County in the south, the Sierras, a little bit of the northern coast, and then the central coast where Monterey and the surrounding counties are part of as well. It is 39 counties in total. So the way we planned this out to make sure we could provide best support to the local entrepreneurs was to create this hub and spoke model. So as you can see, there are a number of CSU that are part of this cluster: Bakersfield, Chico, Fresno, Humboldt, Sacramento, and then Monterey, of course, which is hosting us tonight. So, and is a partner in this effort. So the objective was really to create these hub systems that could spur regional innovation and help entrepreneurs in their own sub-region overcoming some of the barriers that all entrepreneurs has. As Brad mentioned earlier, it really takes a village to get these companies and startups going, anyway from funding to mentoring, advisory, piloting, industry connection. It all creates this, it's all part of this ecosystem they need to grow. And that is what we're trying to do with each of the hubs that are included in the Bluetech Valley. We're also partnering with a couple of UCs to do other kind of services. That's business competition at UC Davis. UC Berkeley is providing some legal counseling. So just a well-rounded set of services is represented in the Bluetech Valley. As you all know, our region as a whole are facing a lot of critical challenges, and we're trying to find solutions and technologies that would help us overcome some of those challenges, and also really support the state in what the goals they have set up for energy and energy efficiency, wildfire mitigation, and their the policies they're putting in place. Next slide, please. So we offer in the Bluetech Valley just a wide range of services, as I mentioned, to help anyone from an idea on a napkin to a fully commercialized technology and really get, the goal is of course to get everybody attraction and adaptation into the marketplace, make some sale, create revenue, create jobs, and develop their businesses. For very early stage, we have our technical innovation evaluation where we evaluate technology that are coming in. Then we have for companies that are just kind of getting started, they're still maybe working on some technical components, getting their feet wet a little bit with commercialization. We have our Bluetech Valley plans that can really help them create a plan for what the next step they should take would look like. And how could they get one step closer to introducing their product to the market, helping them really navigate a lot of the resources that really are available. Anthony mentioned a couple of them with CalSeed and CalTestBed. There's other grants, there's maybe some investments. So really looking at all the opportunities they have to grow and commercialize. The Valley Ventures Accelerator is probably our most, or it is our most advanced and intense program, which is cohort based. And I'll use the next couple of slides to talk a little bit about that. But other than that, we have a wide net of other resources. We have webinars, we have a newsletter, we have access to an online video library. All that is with any of our program free of charge for any entrepreneurs that might find value in it. Next slide, please. So I'm just gonna go to this one here. So our Valley Ventures Accelerator program is really two parts. It's an accelerator program, as many of you might be familiar with, which is a cohort-based program, and then we have an advisory services attached to that as well. So the acceleration is 8 to 12 week cohort-based training. We'll probably go through about 30 sessions. It depends a little bit if you're doing it in person or if we're doing it virtually. Last year was our 5th cohort and the first one we have done virtually. At those sessions, you'll get access to industry leaders, subject matter experts, investors, potential corporate strategic partners, and just get a lot of information and knowledge thrown at the companies or at you, and you can kind of figure out where some of your shortcomings are or what is really you need to work on to excel your business. I have put on this slide a couple of just the type of sessions we have, and this is just really a short snapshot of some of it, but you can see it's everything from project market fit. We have a lot on sales training. We have industry coming in, talking about what it takes to build a water, energy, ag tech venture in California. How do you de-risk your company? How do you make sure, again, you have that product market fit? We spend a lot of time on that. We have financing in there, capitalizing the balance sheet, debt, how do you manage that? Just a wide range of different subjects are covered in the 8 to 12 weeks that we do our acceleration process in. Next slide, please. The advisory will then come after you have been through the cohort 8 to 12 weeks. It's a customized advisory and mentoring program where we work with the companies to set very specific milestone results, outcomes that they are going to work towards with the help of our advisory team and staff to do within the next 9 to 12 months. It can be areas like investment readiness, if that's what one of their milestones is, maybe to get a round of investment. It can also be project market fit. It can be looking at improving sales channels, really just where the company is at that given point and what we think would be a reachable milestone and progress that they can receive with our help for the next 9 to 12 months. I'll talk a little bit about eligibility. Obviously, you've got to have a water, energy, and ag technology that you want to commercialize. For profit model is what we mostly would work with, and you got to have a potential to scale, minimal viable product, and then be able to show some kind of validation. Either you have maybe made a couple of sales already, You have some pilot study, you have maybe already done a strategic partnership, just something that we can see that you are growing, and that these 8 weeks of cohort training with the advisory after would actually make an impact and would actually be able to propel you forward. We will begin to take applications in June, and for this cohort, we're running the cohorts at this point once a year. Next slide, please. And just to tell you a little bit more of our track record. So this is our 6th cohort that we are getting geared up to run. And we have seen really 53, I think it is, ventures have gone through our 5 cohorts that we've had so far. If you go to valleyventures.org, you can see the website here at the top. You can go in and you can look at all the cohorts we have had. You can go dive deeper into the companies that have been through it, and you can follow them and see if there's anyone you might align yourself with, and you will be interested in kind of see what journey they took on. I just took a few out here that I think have just done some great things. The first one is All Power Labs. I know it's very difficult to see on the logos, but they design, manufacturers, deploy a biogas gasification system. And they were actually named one of the best innovations of Time Magazines in 2020. And they also received a $3.3 million bridge grant from the CEC. Anthony mentioned that program just before. So that was just a great accomplishment on them. The next one is Nitricity. They have just recently raised after they participated in our accelerator 1 million in seed funding. They also won Stanford's Entrepreneurship Challenge, and actually their founder, Nicholas, was named on the Forbes 30 to 30 list. Nitricity is interesting because they have actually also gone to the Northern Cluster and Activate, and they are in their program now. So that's what we often see, that some of the companies might start one place, but then really go through the ecosystem that CEC has provided funding for and really be instrumental in putting together. And they pick and see what resources is available and what works for them at any given state. So it's kind of normal that we share companies, refer them to each other, and many entrepreneurs take advantage of just a wide range of services that are available. Perigo is a local company to the Valley, close to Fresno in kind of the rural area there. They actually were part of the CalSeed funding and have been getting those 150,000 to really work on their prototype and just get it ready for further development and for marketing for the market. And they're already seeing growing sales and market penetration as well. Box Power is a solar diesel generator in a container that is really unique. They were actually originally thinking it was going to be for disaster relief and emergency response, but with the many fires we've had in California, that is actually one of their growing markets, is to really help that wildfire mitigation and power reliability to communities where power is shut off on a regular basis due to the fire risk. They're also working with healthcare facilities that are now diesel, with their power generation is diesel in emergency, and really converting them to solar. They're on track for 1 million in revenue this year. And they actually also just received a grant from the California Energy Commission in 1.2 million. So these are just some very, just 4 companies out of the 53, but I'm encouraged you to go see on the other companies that we have worked with through the accelerator. And maybe it will be something you'll consider. Next slide, please. So that's all I want to share with you, but I have my email here. The Bluetech Valley website is on here as well, Valley Ventures. Please reach out if you think we can help you. And if we can't for some reason, I'm sure we have a partner, another cluster, or another stakeholder in our ecosystem that probably can. So thank you for your attention.
That's great. Thank you very much, Hal. Appreciate it. You should all take a look at the Valley Ventures and the programs that they offer. They're doing some really great work out there. Hal, do you have any expos lined up for this next year? Do you know when your next one will be?
No, we don't. Since we are located on Fresno State campus, we are closed on to further notice, so we can't really do any bigger events. We are hoping to do something with our partners in Sacramento, maybe early fall. That will probably be the first, and then we are hoping to bring back our showcase, but it probably won't be until the spring 2022.
Got it. Got it. Wow, what a year we've had. So,
I know.
yeah. When you do those, we will make sure that we get those out to everybody so they can attend, because those are great events. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
again. All right, and our next, oh, we got a clap there from John. Appreciate it. Our next presenter is Ashley Gauer of the Monterey Bay Economic Partnership, and she's going to talk about the clean tech initiatives that they have going on there. Welcome, Ashley.
Hi, thanks, Brad. Thanks for being here, everyone. Special thanks to you all the organizers of this group and this event tonight. I'm actually going to talk a little bit about our organization as a whole and what our climate change initiative is doing in this space of building climate resilient neighborhoods and municipalities. So I am a program manager for special projects with the Monterey Bay Economic Partnership. Next slide, please. I'm just breeze through these first few slides. We're a tri-county member supported nonprofit in the Monterey Bay region. Next slide, please. Our mission is to improve the economic health and quality of life in the region. Next slide. We really take pride in living up to our values displayed here of being a data-driven, action-oriented, collaborative catalyst for change, keeping equity, economics, and the environment at the nexus of what we do. Next slide, please. Our board of directors are a diverse group of regional female and male leaders representing various industries, racial and cultural backgrounds. Next slide. Currently, we're 80 members strong, representing the public, private, and civic sectors in various industries such as finance, tech, agriculture, development, government, healthcare, academia, and transportation. Next slide, please. Our strategies take an integrated interdisciplinary approach to tackle some of the biggest challenges facing our region, such as the housing crisis that has severely impacted our communities, the economic, social, and environmental impacts of climate change and epidemics, a lack of workforce preparedness, geographical disparities between North and South County job creation, city budget cuts, staff shortages, siloed advocacy efforts, and the difficulties of navigating and finding state funding for local broadband infrastructure expansion. The list goes on. Next slide, please. So we also represent the region at a state level and are a member of California Forward and the California Stewardship Network, which really enables us all to connect to other economic development leaders across the state. Next slide, please. Here's just a list of our upcoming events this year. At the end of this year, we'll be hosting the California Economic Summit. Hopefully that will take place in person at the Monterey Conference Center. Our Regional Economic Half-Day Summit is coming up on the 6th. If you're interested in learning more about green jobs and different ways our communities in the region are looking to create that, and also to just get an update on the economy of our region. Next slide, please. Also on our website, you'll find a summary recap of our accomplishments over the last 5 years in our economic report. Next slide, please. Moving into our climate change initiative specifically, it was launched last year to address our ongoing climate and transportation issues. Next slide, please. The impacts of climate change isn't only affecting hundreds and thousands of individuals and communities worldwide. It'll also cost the global economy a GDP of about 3% by 2050. So adapting to and mitigating climate change to create climate resilient cities will require a significant investment and intersectoral collaboration. And we really believe that businesses like you all here, and just investors and entrepreneurs and academic institutions can be actors and enablers of climate action by reducing their emissions, enhancing their adaptive capacity, funding much needed building infrastructure interventions, and supporting other stakeholders to take action. Businesses can also grow the resilience workforce, unlock co-benefits, and invite citizen participation and pioneer innovations and test solutions, engage in public-private partnerships for climate resilient investments, and really nurture cross-industry collaboration. And in doing so, our businesses can contribute to the economic, societal, and environmental transformation required for resilience. Next slide, please. These are just some of our focus areas based on a member survey we conducted last year. Several of our members are already doing really great work in this space. And so our charter is to really just support and engage our members and community partners on collaborative efforts that advance effective solutions for a more equitable and sustainable future. One thing listed here is our student ambassador internship program. About half of our interns, for example, provide direct technical support to our members in climate action planning and legislative tracking, ROI analyses on sustainability, fleet analyses, healthy soils, building decarbonation, et cetera. It's also a really great way to create green career pathways, mentorship opportunities, academic credit, and it's just a really nice way to expand a student's professional portfolio. So if you're a student in the region and want to learn more, please visit our webpage linked here in the deck, or I'll drop it in the chat. Building capacity and knowledge sharing platforms is super critical to our region's understanding of climate issues and solutions. So here are just some other examples of some of our recent collaborations. We just completed our Central Coast Climate Summit series with Green Power, CSUMB, the Green Business Network, Ecology Action, and several others, where a mix of nonprofits, businesses, academic institutions, individual citizens, and elected officials and staff from over 30 jurisdictions came together to learn, celebrate, and activate climate action and sustainability planning. We also created a region-wide telework survey to better understand the challenges and opportunities employers are facing or have faced over the last year, and the kind of resources they need to support future telework where relevant. Next slide, please. One of the main tools that we just created to make funding opportunities more easily and available and navigable is an online search engine for governments, businesses, and academic institutions to go and find grants or loans that they can apply towards climate action and sustainability planning. And so this is something we'll continue to add to, and we encourage everyone to participate in the development of this tool. We're also working on a search engine for planning tools and capacity building resources for climate action and sustainability planning, which if you receive our newsletter, you'll be kept apprised of. They'll all look very similar to this. It's a very rudimentary search engine that you can filter by location, obviously, funding type and recipient type. Next slide, please. Just more examples of what we're doing to introduce innovative ideas, promote incentives and programs and initiatives, and to highlight successful partnerships taking place in the region on carbon mitigation, job creation, workforce training, energy efficiencies, and relevant legislation such as Congressman Panetta's Microgrid Act, which would essentially provide a 30% tax credit for qualified microgrid property. As extreme as you all might know, as extreme weather events continue to rise, so will blackouts, grid outages, and public safety shutoffs, making grid power less reliable and more expensive. And so incentivizing the build out and deployment of more microgrids will certainly help increase our community resilience. Next slide, please. Again, if this slide deck gets shared with you as a PDF, you'll be able to easily click on all these examples listed here. Another notable mention, however, oh, I'm sorry, can you go back one slide? Is 3CE's new electrification education grant. There they're awarding a total of up to $260,000 to advance electrification, education, outreach, and workforce training and development. Anyone is welcome to apply. They're having an info session on April 15th. And I'll drop a link in the chat to sign up if anyone is interested in learning more how to qualify. And just showcasing successful partnerships, just realized Rene Mendez of City of Gonzales is actually here tonight. So he'll be able to highlight their unique public-private partnership with Concentric Power. The point here is to really just show you that there's a lot of great collaborations taking place in the region, and MBEP is in the business of creating more of those. So how to get involved, which is the next slide. There are so many different ways, whether you're in academia, business, government, or a local citizen who just wants to learn more and do more in your community. I've just listed some examples here. Please reach out to me if you have ideas, if you have resources to share, if you want to get plugged into any of these sectors and the work that we're doing. I've shared my contact information in the next slide. And one thing I obviously didn't really talk about is our broadband initiative and our hope to really accelerate funding opportunities for more clean tech in our region. And so we're hoping to work closely with CSUMB and other stakeholders in the region to create, potentially a clean tech hub and just more funding opportunities for folks that are on this call. So thank you. I will turn to the chat to see if we have any questions. Otherwise, again, you have my email. Please reach out and let's stay connected.
Excellent. That was great, Ashley. You guys are up to a lot over there, as always.
Right. Yeah, thanks, Fred. And again, clean tech it's the next big thing. It's already here, right? There's a lot going on in Santa Cruz. There's clearly a lot going on in Silicon Valley, but we want to make sure that we're tailoring our solutions to meet the needs and assets of our community here in the Monterey Bay region. So.
And for anyone interested, I highly recommend MBEP's programs that they run, the State of the Region, and that California Economic Summit is going to be fabulous. So I encourage you to attend those. And I think all the links are there. Lynette has been doing her link magic during the session, as always. Thank you very much, Ashley, for your great presentation. And as Ashley referenced, we're now going to hear from the folks who are doing some of these things. We have Rene Mendez, who is the city manager for the City of Gonzales, an incredibly forward-thinking guy. And we also have, where'd he go? Is he there? I'm looking, there he is, Jason Sedano from Concentric Power and their partnership, which is doing some really innovative things down in Gonzales. So Rene, I will turn this to you.
Yeah, hi everybody, thank you. Hopefully I'm coming across well. Just gonna, I know this time, just kind of want to discuss our project. We do have a project with Concentric Power microgrid. This has been several years in the making. Started really formally back in 2017. We've taken many steps. We formed our own utility along the way, feasibility study. We put out a request for information for our partners. Concentric, which a local company, won the RFP. Then we spent not quite a year, but almost a year negotiating an agreement with Concentric. The pandemic certainly did not help, but we pivoted to Zooming like many did, and we were able to get through an agreement which was fully executed in September 21. And now we're moving forward on all the pieces to make the project stand up. We are looking at second quarter 2022. Jason will be presenting more about that from the Concentric. Can we move to the next slide? So Yeah, I was talking to Brad and some of the folks earlier, and really the innovation in our project is the way we were able to sort of merge systems together. So essentially what we have is we have a wholesale retail, it's a wholesale retail arrangement. We have a wholesale agreement with Concentric, where they're providing the energy generation assets. And then we're going to take as our utility and sell that power to our customers, to a potential customers. So that's the wholesale arrangements with Concentric. The retail arrangement will be with our companies. And for those of you that know Gonzales or don't know Gonzales, we have Taylor Farms, Del Monte Man, Braga. We have a Constellation Wineries, which is a huge wine company and spirits and other things, beer and stuff like that. So we have some pretty big companies here that use a lot of energy. If you can move on. So, you know, this is just a little, our location assets is going to be our Gonzales Agricultural Industrial Business Park. This is just a redemption. Part of the project does include Concentric standing up a substation. Jason will talk more about that. And using our land at the wastewater treatment plant. So we're trying to multi-use, multi-purpose land that the city already owns. Moving forward. So essentially, this is a picture of what we have the microgrid. You see our solar ponds. Again, Jason will go much more into that technology. We are looking at 14.5 megawatts of AC array solar above our wastewater treatment plant. We are expanding our plant. We do have property out there, so I think it really lends well to, you know, using assets that already exist, maximizing the assets owned by the community, which is a wastewater. And then you see Gonzales, obviously, with to the east of the wastewater treatment plant, and we'll be, you know, building the distribution system to get the power there. Next slide. Just a higher sort of, you know, aerial view of it. The power generation system, we are looking at 14.5 megawatts of solar, 10 megawatts and 20 of batteries, 10 megawatts of engine, an export substation and sub-transmission line. So it's a pretty robust project. We can go on to the next slide. And, you know, that's basically the red lines that you see, that's the loop of the microgrid. So we're going to wrap around our industrial park. The dashed line would be that we have some property still to the north of the existing industrial business park that will be at some point connecting. And the lines that you see kind of going into an L shape, which on the picture is to the south, that would take the power to the Braga, what used to be a Dole facility, and Constellation Wines. Moving on. So the wholesale energy service agreement, again, this is a lot. It kind of looks like a power purchase agreement, but it doesn't. It has a lot of different components. But, you know, section 1, terms of services, section 2, systems and operation. And then we have, like you have in a lot of agreements, you have indemnification, dispute resolution, and kind of the nuts and bolts of a lot of agreements that you see very common. You go on to the next slide. No secret, we negotiated a rate of 11.75 per kilowatt. That's the wholesale rate. We in the ESA we're adjusting it based on market conditions, but we're constraining how much it can go up. So that's one of the other unique features of this, is that if you, with the right partner, we were able to craft an agreement that really minimizes future increases. So it does put a ceiling to the future increases, which would give certainty to our customers, right? Our companies and so forth. System size, you know, phase 1. Second phase has us potentially using methane gas out of our landfill and bringing that in. And we have other things in future phases, but phase 1, we're really focused on that. Ownership, frankly, is Bodega owns, which is the Concentric. It's going to power the generation systems. Gonzales Municipal Electric Utility, the city will be owning the distribution assets, and then Bodega will operate them, and then we'll contract back with Bodega to operate and maintain the system. So all of that is in the 30+ page, 40-page energy services agreement with a bunch of exhibits. Moving forward. Other major provisions that we have is a 30-year term of an agreement. We have performance guarantees. We have put in security. For our city's perspective, it was critical. It was essential to limit the liability to the city's core functions or our general fund. So that took a lot to craft that language that would work for everybody. But that was important to move forward. As you will see, this is not an inexpensive project. And we also maintain, from a city's perspective, future buyout options, which is very consistent with what we've done with other things. As you come into Gonzales on the north, there are 2 wind turbines that power. One provides power to Taylor Farms. The other provides power to Del Monte. Those are on city property. And at the end of those power purchase agreements that the wind turbine company has with the company, with either Taylor and Del Monte, the city will have the option to buy those assets. But I think we used it as a business retention, attraction strategy. So moving forward, it's not an insignificant project. This is a $70 million investment. We're asking Bodega Microgrid, who you hear from in a bit, to invest $60 million. We are prepared to build a distribution system and set up an operating reserve. So combine that $10 million. We are underwriting solely by project revenues. While they're big companies, it's a relatively small base of companies. So that, brings some risk to the project. And obviously state regulatory changes are possible. Ashley talked about the Microgrid Act introduced by Congressman Panetta. But the PUC, the Public Utilities Commission, is going through some proceedings right now as it pertains to microgrid. So we're trying to stay ahead of all that. Just to put it in perspective, the city's entire budget when we're doing capital projects tends to be $20 to the low $20 million. So this by far would be the largest project ever done by the city of Gonzales. And that's why it was really important to find the right private partner. And I think we're kind of winding down. If you go to the next slide. Why are we doing this? I mean, we always, what's the bottom line? Well, like every city in California, we have a climate action plan, we have carbon footprint, we have green goals we have to meet. So this is going to provide clean, low cost electrical power. It's going to continue to support an expanded tax base and new jobs. So if you recall, we negotiated a wholesale rate of 11 3/4 cents. We think we can, and this is no secret, it's been part of all the conversations and with the council. We think we can deliver a retail rate 1 to 2 or possibly more cents lower than what PG&E is charging today. So it's a competitive project. We will be able to provide reliable electrical power 24/7, 360 days of the year. We did, along with the city of Soledad in 2019, were the proud recipients of a power safety shutoff. So we were out for almost 2 days, which was very disruptive to not only our households, but also our companies. And it did lead to a lot of economic loss and the hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. In fact, it is such a concern that Constellation, for example, as a company that's an international company, one of their key core priorities this year for their locations in California is to solve the energy issue. They're going to do it through generators, they're going to do it through other things. So that's part of it's just become another really business challenge to deal with. Our ag companies not only have to deal with food safety and some of those challenges, but now energy's become a really important thing to really look forward to it. We would essentially control when we connect. It would provide funding for infrastructure in the future and for us to reinvest in the community. So bottom line, that's why we're doing it. Yes, it does generate a return to the utility to invest here locally, but more importantly, I think it helps us meet our climate action goals. It's a quality of life, and it creates continues to create a prosperous sort of vital tax base, and bring in the resources that we need for our community. So I think that's just the last slide. But here's sort of where we're at. We hope to complete the project second quarter 2022. But the real innovation here, I believe, is just putting all these processes together and all these systems together, finding the right partner. And the other thing is keeping our council and our community updated every step of the way. This has been fully transparent. So thanks, Brad.
That's great. Thank you.
Thanks,
Rene.
everybody.
We do have a question in chat here about your negotiated wholesale rate. Are you using time of day pricing for it?
That was part of the conversation, but part of what we were trying to do is to be as simple as possible and simplify it as much as possible. So all that information is available. Be happy to share if people are interested in it. Just kind of, how we got to where we got. But yeah, I'm sure some of you, to me, I learned a lot through this process. I thought, I think things are pretty simple and straightforward, but it's really a complicated area of not only the law, but trying to merge all these regulatory environment. It's pretty complex. So we spent a lot of time with our council. So the other thing we're trying to do is keep our rates really straightforward and simple moving forward to give certainty to our customers.
That's great. Well, congratulations to you and the City of Gonzales for taking this on and doing that kind of innovation, which is not easy innovation, trying to integrate all the bureaucracies, which is what happens with regulation. So now to hear a little bit about kind of what's underneath this and how the technology works, we have Jason Sedano from Concentric Power. So Jason, how's he doing this?
Well, thank you for having me, and Rene, thank you for all the kind words. It's been a pleasure to kind of be part of this growing team. I'm kind of a new addition in the last, pretty much since the GEA thing went official. We're starting to the company has kind of gone into a big growth kind of area. So the company started in 2010. Brian Curtis started the company, and so we have kind of gone through a lot of the phases that some of the earlier speakers were talking about: your R&D, the prototype, your first movers, kind of prove out some of that. And so now we're definitely in the maturity. We're kind of building some of the, and as you can see with our relationship and our partnership with Rene and Gonzales, we've now taken on some of the big projects. We've reached that maturity state, and the company is now on a very quick growth curve, both structurally, internally, to building out the teams, but then also just how we're developing and how we're able to do this. So part of the vision was, and this is part of any startup, is very, sticking to your guns and realizing when you're on the right track and not getting distracted by side goals. I think one of the reasons when I started my conversations with Brian is what excited me about Concentric was his laser focus for what industries and what significance he thought he could bring to bear and where he could make the impact, and do a good thing for communities, right? Brian's much like Rene. It's very, you can get a feeling with when you speak to a person, you hear somebody speak, they're just a genuinely good person who's doing good. And that's kind of the sense I get when I'm talking in this industry with these people and with the people that I work with and the team members, both in Gonzales and other projects we're working on. So what Concentric does is we build microgrids. So to begin, and what we're really trying to do is kind of be able to deliver something now that's kind of hits on all the things Rene was hitting about. Is like, first of all, does it pencil as a project? We talk about that rate that we negotiated. How do we get to that? How do we get to this inflection point where we can actually compete and provide power locally that is both resilient and green and can be brought online, can be flexible to the structuring? I think that's a big part that Rene kind of hit on, and that's really difficult to do if you don't have an advanced ability to kind of react on the technical side quickly. So I mean, much like a duck paddling on water, everything looks cool and chill, but every time the regulations would change or any kind of zoning issues or any kind of legal issues would come up, we have to be able to paddle underneath and make sure the technology can fit what's happening, with those adjustments and with those structurings and with those things. So every time we have a new redesign, we have to be like, can we support that? Do we have the ability to control for that? So next slide. So the intelligent microgrid infrastructure. So what we're trying to develop is we've already deployed a couple projects. And so we have a few microgrids already in place. So we're trying to also kind of expand beyond and have a network of microgrids. So the Gonzales project is in itself is so we're going to be somewhat of a network because it's a very large project. So just by, as he showed, it kind of sits on 2 plots of land and then connects, a third parcel out to the side. So by just the project and the scope of what we're building in Gonzales already is going to tap into some of that technological know-how that we're kind of R&D been teeing up and preparing and working on and fine tuning and getting towards prototype, past prototype and into maturity, and now are ready to deploy. So what I mean by that is, you can go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay, so this is a tailwind, right? So what I tell people is, the technology for microgrids is like any aircraft, it can fly on its own at this point. So we are finally at an inflection point where the technology can go. It can compete on the economics. In fact, it can now win, and I can explain why. It can now compete with resiliency and actually wins, and it can compete on green, which is also critical, which is why there's so much heat behind the microgrids. So that's kind of the tailwind, and so the technology that allows it to go is great, but the tailwinds that are coming from it, also in the economics, what you see here is these are the different power generating assets, right? So you can generate power through, as we know, solar, through wind, through geothermal, through methane off of plants, through moving rocks up and down. There's all kinds of different, but the major key component ones have all come down in price drastically. So your ability to generate power is now way cheaper. So now what is interesting about microgrids is, well, we want to create as much green as possible, but we want to be able to have firm power to actually carry us through the nights, to carry us through bad weather, to be, again, resilient and something we can rely on, and something that'll be around in 30 years. So though that combination is what a microgrid is as we define it. So you'll hear a lot of people are jumping on the term and trying to claim it for what they're up to, but the true term is somebody who can take these multiple assets and have the intelligence to then know when and how to operate those, right? And then you can see here, the problem with distributed power generation in a massive grid capacity is you have to transmit the power. And on any power lines, you can lose up to 18% of the power generated from the facility. So you have a big, efficient generator of power. When they just put it on the wire to get it to you, they're going to lose a lot of that power just through line loss. So already they're working at a loss. And so for a long time, it didn't matter because they were so big and so efficient initially, they could support that loss. Well, there's 2 problems. One is the distribution network itself, the long, having to bring a cable from Southern California all the way to Northern or from another state, which is a lot of where power comes in, and having to, there's that entire line is a risk factor, number one, for resilience, wildfires, wind, just anything that can hit that wire and bring it down can cause a disruption in power. There's a limitation of what the wire can carry, and there's a long build time if you need to install a new one or another more powerful one. Plus, even when the system is working as intended, it's still a lot of loss. So we have now reached this inflection point where we can beat them by providing it locally, which eliminates risk, eliminates that loss, and allows us to also, for all the double E's in the room, allows us to parallel process. We can deploy a bunch of these fast, right? Both in Gonzales, we can be deploying the solar and the different generating assets in parallel once we hit go. So both on a project basis, we can deploy rapidly, but also just for the needs that we kind of find ourselves in an aggregate is a mass deployment of parallel microgrids to kind of bring up this firm power, bring this resilience into the grid, and build these separate grid assets. And then we're also developing some other technology around that. Next slide. Let's see what else I included in here. So yeah, so what Concentric is really all about is, I like to use a lot of analogies. So one of the ones I've been kicking around lately is, so you have these assets, right? You have this solar, you have this wind turbine, you have this engine, you have this, cogeneration or whatever. You have this, how do you efficiently use them not to be wasteful? Because the problem right now is you may turn on this engine, turn on the solar, and when do you switch? How do you switch? How powerfully? So that control system is incredibly complex and incredibly difficult. Each one of those systems has its own entire batch of worms as to how best to power it, when not to use it, when do you dump into the battery, what battery technology, what's the profile after 5 years, how much does it degrade, how do you then react? So there's a lot of going to be data laking, a lot of AI ML control for that. So the Tech Advantage infrastructure, what we can do, the way we can deploy and negotiate terms that make it a viable system and allow Rene to have the wholesale price that he can get and work, is that we can develop a Tech Advantage system, the paddling of the duck feet, that allows us to very efficiently use it. So it's kind of like my car is cold. You don't turn the AC all the way up and crank it at -3 degrees, or same in your home, right? You want to very carefully tune it to actually produce. You don't want to overproduce and underproduce and constantly be switching your heater on. Like, you're trying to keep your house at 70. You don't put it to 30, then your house gets freezing cold. Then you don't crank it up to 105 and turn your heater on and blast heat and oscillate back and forth. That would be massively wasteful and probably uncomfortable and not produce the power. So there's a lot of factors like that, and I could probably drone on and on and on about that. But our ability to be smart about how we control the assets allows us for an efficiency that we can pass through. Again, this is why one of the wonderful things about working with a team like Gonzales and the municipalities is the open book is we're very transparent in how we're talking about how to do that and design it and build it so that there is the resilience, there is that Tech Advantage ability, and just smart usage of your assets. You're not beating them up, so they do last 30 years, and we can get to those performance guarantees, right? And those the term of the contract, and also our key, and this is the tech roadmap of trying to develop a 30-year plan, is what can we deliver today that can be applied and still be useful for the next phase. So what we try to give on the first phase is the fundamental foundation of a firm power that meets green abilities and allows you to kind of make that next step. And then you can build upon it. Sort of like if you're redoing your backyard, you don't want to have to install grass and tear it out for the pool and then tear it out for the deck. No, you want to put the grass in the one spot where the other two, things like that. So that's kind of our planning and our phasing approach. Next slide. And I'll move a little more quickly here. So this is an example of one of our systems already installed. This is a Taylor building. You can see there's a mix of assets. We have some solar, we have some cogeneration, where we capture some heat, we produce power, we have the wind turbine, and then there's the control systems, the transformers, what switch gear you're going to be using, all that sort of stuff to kind of bring those assets together to deliver the massive power needs in these facilities. The next slide. Here's another one. This is one of our big solar ones we just brought online. And again, this one's really interesting. We brought in this big system, and before they had, I think it was 46 different meters all over this massive ranch. We were able to, consolidate and then build the thing and be able to control for them and provide for them. And in fact, a simpler, cleaner, easier, more resilient way, while also meeting a really good green target. And this investment in this solar field allows them to then come for the next phase of batteries and, other factors to then make a system better. Next slide. So this is the Gonzales project, what Rene was talking about. Now he showed one of the images that I could fit in my slide deck, so I'm glad he showed it, where the solar fields sit. So this is actually in the agricultural park. You remember this loop is the one he talked about and he showed. So this is where we're going to be building our powerhouse and our control systems and a lot of our switchgear and everything here on site, right there in the power park. And it's, clearly the resiliency is there. We're doing it on site. We're bringing it on right there. And we'll, and so the office space, the engineers, everything kind of is a community build. And it creates the gravity of both control, creation, and everything in this very area. I know we're I don't want to beat up too much time, but there's a lot to be talked about here. I'm happy to talk more about what we're planning, what we're doing in Gonzales about this build. But I think Rene actually did a great job of kind of doing the rundown, so I won't repeat a lot of what he was talking about. So next slide. I think that might be my last. Yes. I don't know if anyone had any other questions or not yet.
I had one for you and Rene. Are there plans to take this into the residential areas of Gonzales?
So I'll give a stab at that. We are discussing we are looking at another developmental growth phase. So we're currently in the works at annexing more, 2 large projects. So there has been discussion. One of the things that I think we're taking it in phases. So I want to say yes, but we're not quite there yet. The reason why it's really working for us is we have a definable space. their industrial park, and we can really define our customers. And I think part of the challenge and uniqueness with this projects is, frankly, one, demonstrating that we can actually pull it off. So that's one. And number two, but in order to do that, while it's $70 million is a lot of money, it's manageable as when you look at our geography, and it's really hitting high energy users to begin with. And I think once I can tell that we have a lot of people looking at this, hoping that we succeed. So then they're going to come, okay, when do we do us? How can we expand the microgrid and so forth? So, but I think it's important to kind of just start where you think is manageable and then grow from there. So the short answer to the question is we are thinking in the future, there's going to be a lot of room to take this more to sort of a community-wide microgrid. But that invites a bunch of other sort of things, because remember, right now we're doing retail service agreements with our industry. We're not going to have retail individual agreements with every household.
Yeah, right.
And the challenge with the way we're doing it on the municipal side is we have a rate setting process we have to go through. And we're not a CCA, we're working under the CCA, right? But a community choice aggregate. So in order for us to set rates, we have to go with an incredible process, and then it's a vote of the people. And so, this is just the first step. If we can set up the microgrid, prove that it works, which we fully expect that it will, then I think we'll have better ability to move forward into our households, and particularly as we're building new areas.
That's great. And what you just said demonstrates how complicated this all is. And every time you move into a new area, you've got to deal with all the institutional change that has to happen in order to make this possible. Thank you very much, Rene and Jason, for that great presentation. That was really great. We started with the state, and we moved down, drilled all the way down to a local project. So thank you very much to all of our presenters tonight. It was a great set of presenters, and we'll have another great set of presenters next month. Lynette, can we pull the last couple slides? Here we go. Okay, so if any of you out there have a company or a program that you want to present, please get in touch with us. We'd love to hear from you. We're always looking for great and interesting things to put on the program. Let's roll next. Don't forget about the Startup Challenge finale. That'll happen May 7th online. Keep an eye on startupmontereybay.com and startupchallengemb.com for more information on that.
Hey, Brad.
Yes, sir. Josh Metz.
Sorry to interrupt. There was a question put up there at the end, maybe for Jason, if there's still any time.
Oh, Jason, sorry I missed that.
Not to keep everyone too long, but I'm particularly intrigued about this idea of, do these microgrids start, expanding, and do they work together or independently? Those kind of questions.
Yeah, sort of the interconnecting the microgrids is an interesting question. Jason?
Yes. So we have a lot of stuff in the pipe for that exact area. A lot of it is in our R&D right now. So now that we've had these assets, we are actually developing quite a few things. I have a few things I have to file on first before I can talk details, but we do have a few things. So the idea is, once you have this network of microgrids, there's a lot of things you can do. So right now, when you if you have excess power, you can always dump it and sell it, but it's a terrible rate. So the idea is, well, what else could you do with that excess power? What other things can you do for the community? What other things can you do within your geographic area if you have some that are somewhat near each other? And how can they interplay, and which ways can you transmit power between them? If not power, how can you transmit value between them, right? So maybe there's an ability to, dump the power in one way and then pull it out on the other side in another form, right? So yes, and if you want to talk more, I'm happy to. My email is just Sedano@Concentric Power. But yeah, so there's a lot of developments in that area of what you can do with a set of them, right?
Cool.
Yeah. So and then the other question I saw is, how do we price it? I mean, a lot of that's going to be based. We have a lot of really complex models that we're building. We have a software development that we're coming along with to kind of help look at those numbers. And time of day. There's, I mean, John had a similar question too to Nancy on that, but it's complex in some ways, but if you can find a good way to control for it from our side, where we're comfortable with, like, look, we can control the assets quickly enough. We can bring them online and offline. We can price things depending on what our asset burn is. We know, weather predictions. We can look at gas prediction costs. We can, know when to throttle up the wind or throttle up the solar, or when do we, battery. What other assets can we build online that are not, that give us more resilience for different options to make the economics work. And that's what the phased approach Rene talks about. So it's really exciting once you have a good control system. So, and that's one of the things that we're able to do is, we do now have a pretty good data lake, Josh, also, which helps decide how you're going to, push those innovations. And I know some AI people I saw in the conversation, that's another really big area for us that we're kind of innovating in, that allows us to deliver on this merge system approach for Rene, right? For other communities like this and big clients. I mean, so yeah, there's a lot coming down the pipe with what the microgrids, and I think, not to beat a pond down, but like I always say, it's fertile soil. And like, it's so true when it comes to this, and I think the innovation hubs, I know we were part of one that made us viable and made us grow here in Salinas, and we still sit in that office. We're very proud to be part of that community, right? Even as we grow and we've gotten bigger, there's nothing better than being part of something that helped us get there, right? And those first adopters, we'll never forget them. Rene is part of that process. Is he kind of brings on this project for something that we're going to build for him as well, right? Which is very exciting. Allows for the innovation, allows for a lot of local talent to be tapped into, a lot of building. It's a really exciting project, and multiple more coming down the pipe. And once you kind of get a critical mass of enough of these, the economics work. Other people bring them online, and then once you have, control is one of those things. If you have the assets, you have the control of your own power, then you can start doing interesting things for other community members, your neighbors. To Rene's point, the other neighborhoods or the other communities, other big ag players in the space. So there's a lot to be done, and I'm sure a lot of people here. There's a lot of exciting technology too. So once you have the framework, you can start doing stuff like, hey, we have so much solar, let's get an electrolyzer and turn it into hydrogen. Why not? Let's get a fleet of those trucks and start driving those around. We know there's a lot of phases that are coming in the next 5, 10, but the key now is to get that foundation and start to reduce our carbon footprint. And the microgrid is a mass deployment ability to do that. So, which is why that's why I kind of switched industries from where I was before. This is where I believed, after doing an analysis, was this is the highest impact point that I can apply my skill set to and bring on the best assets, the best change, both for green tech in the world, but also just where I could think there was the most kind of innovation potential, right? I'm a patent attorney by trade, so that's kind of what I like to do.
So Jason, if I could just real briefly add to something. On the pricing model, there's the pricing of the energy, but we are going through our rate setting process right now. So probably within a month, we will be releasing to our board, which is our city council sitting as the Gonzales Utility Board, a rate setting document that's going to clearly delineate how we're going to get to our retail rates. Mm-hmm. So all of this is going to be probably within the next month and a half. All of this is going to be out there we're trying to. I mean, I think John talked about we're trying to simplify this as much as possible. So hopefully it won't be a 1,000-page document. It'll probably be in the 20 to 30 pages. That's my goal. But anyway. So stay tuned on that. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Rene. Thanks, Jason. All right. Time to wrap this up, I think. Thanks to our sponsors, and especially to the Monterey Bay Economic Partnership, who's a marketing partner and also a presenter tonight. And what else do we have? Is that it? Keep updated. Subscribe to our monthly newsletter at tinyurl.com IIED newsletter. That'll probably show up in the chat in a moment. And see you in May, Tuesday, May 11th, online. See you then. Everybody have a great night.